Hey there, awesome RC fan. Welcome to TJsRC. If you've been following along, then you know that we're currently troubleshooting some issues with the Bronco here. We went ahead and examined all the moving parts on the Bronco. We looked inside the transmission, the axles, and what we discovered is that there is nothing mechanically wrong. This means that the problem we are experiencing lies somewhere in the motor or the ESC or the wires between them. But if you missed the previous episodes where we go through and look at all of the mechanical moving parts to make sure they're functioning properly, I'll link to that playlist here. Today we're just going to come over here to the bench, take a look at the current state that the truck is in right now. I've got everything back together. We'll look at that. I did make a few changes on the truck, and then we'll discuss where I plan to take the troubleshooting strategy next. So if that has you interested, stay with us. Let's head over to the bench. As you can see, I've got the tires and axles back on and all the associated hardware and links. All of the new shiny hardware. I plan to do a full review on that hardware kit eventually, but for now, suffice it to say, I love all the little shiny highlights. Up here, if you're a longtime viewer, you'll notice just a few changes. One is I did a much better job this time getting all the wiring so that it lays nice in the chassis. I also got the ES1 sound kit mounted securely. It is a little extra weight high up in the air, but I'm really not too concerned with that. I don't do any competition crawling, so that's not an issue for me. Another thing that you might notice is that I did not reinstall the servo winch up here on the front. I decided to take that out for right now for a couple of reasons. Number one being that I didn't actually use it ever. And since it never really got used, I went ahead and pulled it out. You'll also notice that I put the motor and the ESC that I've been running back in. This takes us to troubleshooting the issue we're having. Now, the problem is not mechanical. We went ahead and proved that by taking the transmission out and the axles, basically all the moving parts, proving that they all functioned properly as they should. So we know that the problem is either related to the ESC or the motor. But I did take the motor completely apart and check the insides. Nothing wrong in there. After putting the motor back together, I took my multimeter and measured the resistance across all the windings. And as far as I can tell, there's no issues, there's no shorts. They all measure exactly the same, small percentage of an ohm resistance across all of them. And I believe that that's how it's supposed to be. Now, there wasn't anything I could actually check on the ESC itself, other than to pull the fan and the cover off and just give it kind of a physical examination. Nothing looks amiss there. What I did notice, though, when I removed the connectors between the ESC wires and the motor wires here, is that the inside of the bullet connectors was really dark. So what I did is I cleaned up those connectors really well with some electrical contact cleaner, finished it off with some deoxit before reconnecting the wires and putting the shrink wrap back. With the connectors all cleaned up and the wires put back together as they should, we're going to test my theory by simply running the truck for a while to see if we can recreate the problems. If the problems don't come back, then we know that the entire issue all along was just corroded connectors between the ESC and the motor. However, if the problem does come back, then we know it had nothing to do with the connection between the ESC and the motor, and we'll have to continue our troubleshooting from there. If it comes to that, and it turns out that the connection was not the problem, my plan will be to pick up another brushless motor or motor and ESC combo so that I can swap the parts around to try to eliminate which one is the bad part. Crossing my fingers, and I'm pretty hopeful that the connections between the ESC and the motor really were the problem, because the bullet connectors did look pretty bad. The inside of the connectors were dark and grimy, so I'm pretty confident that that was the issue, but I do have a backup plan in case that turns out that that wasn't the problem. For now, the troubleshooting series is going to go on pause, so with any luck, the next few videos should be trailing videos. We're going to get outside, play in the snow. We got a lot of snow coming on the forecast here, so we should have plenty of the white stuff to play with. If that works out, a few weeks down the road, I'll post a conclusion to the troubleshooting to let you know that either I have to go further or that we did solve the problem. I really appreciate you following along as we dig through this truck to see what's going on with it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for being an awesome RC fan. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you in the next video.